We've discussed some serious business and political topics today, so I think it's now time for a touch of glamour. The subject of this session is luxury brands and the challenges this industry is facing with weak spending in its traditional markets like Japan, Europe, and the US. So obviously, the luxury goods companies are having to reassess their strategies. They're now shifting their hopes to higher growth markets like the Middle East, India, and China. As you can see, in true +91 style, we have a very distinguished panel of speakers, all of whom represent world-class luxury brands. So I'm going to get straight into the presentations to maximize what is very limited time this late afternoon. Now, when you think of Belgium, one of the first things that comes to mind is obviously chocolate. Godiva, founded by master chocolatier Joseph Draps in 1926, was one of the first to develop a special technique for producing rich chocolate with unusual smoothness and shell-molded designs. The first shop was very humble. It opened on a small cobblestone street on the Grand Place in Brussels, and of course it was an instant hit. Today you're going to find the Godiva brand in nearly 500 shops and over 80 countries. So to tell us more about the fascinating world of Godiva, I would like to invite Guillaume de Foucault, who's the Vice President of Godiva International, to tell us more about Godiva's expansion plans in India and Asia. Guillaume.
Thank you, Rakesh. In fact, you already introduced the history of Godiva, so I don't have to do it anymore. Thank you for this opportunity, Rakesh, and good afternoon or good evening, whatever, to you. In fact, it's surprisingly, we always say Godiva bring the best of Belgium to the world, when we want to share, what is the mission of Godiva, because let's talk about the brand first. It's not a mission to please the chocolate lovers, and I'm sure you are, but it's surprisingly, our mission is to spark joy and deepen connection. So it's more about the chocolate. It's really to be globally acting on those aspects when it's an enjoying moment and it's even beyond key seasons. When we talk about the brand positioning of Godiva, we certainly want to say that we want to own the ultimate chocolate experience. And you will see how this brand positioning element is important when we expand to new countries and new markets. So it's about the ultimate chocolate experience. And we have brand filters, which will allow us to do that. The first one in Thrill the Sense. So Thrill the Sense, you see, I'm not talking about, gifting or whatsoever. I'm talking about Thrill the Sense. And Thrill the Sense, that could be done in many times of the day, and it could be done many times during the year. It's set the gold standards, and as Rakesh said, we do that since 1926, and with a strong Belgium heritage, but set the gold standards. It's everything we do from production, innovation as well, the retail service, the design, everything that will bring this ultimate experience to life. And then the last one, which is really particular and probably mostly common to all luxury brands, is to continue to be irresistibly charming. Which is important, and it's also, an element that it's applicable and sustainable in all markets. Today, Godiva, we are not, we are producing in Belgium. We have a factory in Brussels. We also have a factory in North America, producing for the North America market. And we are not only selling our product in Western Europe. I will say, Godiva, since we have opened the first store of Godiva outside of Belgium, was Paris, Rue Saint-Honoré, close to the Place Vendôme, in 1958. And after that, Godiva has really expanded to new markets, in particular North America, Japan. But now we are distributing this brand in more than 80 countries around the world. Certainly, the travel retail, airlines has been a key drivers of the brand awareness and probably the first experience of consumers. But we have also extended in some domestic markets. So just to give you a bit of colors, and then I will probably talk more about how does it mean with new markets and how we adapt the brand. But just started from the original store, and this is a nice pictures of Grand Place. So for those who have not been to Brussels, I certainly invite you to come in Brussels and visit the Grand Place. This is where we have our original stores. But then we continue to expand the brand, and as you can see, in particular in the UK market, which is also, an interesting one, not talking first about East and expansion, because UK are certainly extremely proud about also their proper roots of chocolate, and we can see there is an extremely great British chocolatier in the UK market, also including that UK is one of the most important confectionery and chocolate market in Western Europe. But we, already show to some kind of consumers their approach to this experience. And I was, having a discussion just before this presentation to also say how it is important for Godiva to expand our presence in key touristic locations, and in particular in London. When I see that also the Indians real estate needs increasing in particular in London, it's interesting also to offer this first experience. I also recall a brand called Lancôme, where they have started to open China, Lancôme. They also measure a certain increase of their sales in Western Europe. So you see the deep connection that a brand can create from a consumer to another one, or probably the same in the different markets. So, the consistency of the brand presence and the experience is extremely important for us. And also when I mentioned, the ultimate chocolate experience, we also, took the opportunity and the liberty to not just offer a beautiful box of chocolate, but is also to elevate the experience to consumer. And this is a good example of what we have done in Harrods with the Godiva Chocolate Cafe. And surprisingly, and you will probably say to me, it is not a surprise definitively on my side, is that this cafe is not, visiting by British consumer, but it's mainly Middle East consumer. And it's probably one of the particularities of Harrods. But again, it is interesting for us as a brand to be consistent, and again, to test and adapt our product offer to a future expansion. When we say now going east, and I will list you, and I will finish how India is important for us, some few examples on how successful we have been in some markets and expansion in this. The first one will be certainly, what we did in Turkey, which for me has been a good example. In Turkey, when we are start to open our first flagship boutique in September 2010, we have now more than 10 stores, boutique, and also some corporate and online presence in the market. After 3 years, we have to challenge ourselves to adapt, this Belgium retail and also chocolate to also the culture. And in Turkey, people love to, and such as the Middle East, really spend their time when they do shopping. And so we have adapted the design of our stores in order to really offer to the consumer their particular needs of the type of gift and also the type of consumption. Then when you see also now our presence in China, we have opened in China end of 2009. We have now reached more than 40 boutiques in China, and we have also expanded in second-tier cities in China. We have also launched our e-commerce business there. Again, you can appreciate the consistency of the design, and all the products that the Chinese consumer will have are coming from Brussels. But we have also adapted ourselves on the service level, and we have also adapted ourselves on the product offer in terms of gifting experience as well as cafe experience. That are other examples as well of the other boutiques we have opened in second-tier cities, mainly in shopping malls. And again, it's all a matter of consistency, but to adapt to the service and the product offer. We also definitively, and this is where it is important for us to understand, you can't just go, and just implement your product, open stores. You also have to be relevant to the local markets and to the consumer. What we did extremely well in Japan and in China, it's always to leverage, in particular because we are a premium brand, to leverage, stars and to create this connection between, the values of Godiva and the values of those talents and people that are extremely important for the consumer. And we have always leveraged that based on their image, as you can see, but also to create the connection between our chefs and also probably the first experience for the consumer to test the brand. And so you can see all the different type of workshop and try to educate the consumer, because the main challenge, in particular in the food environment, is to educate the consumer how to test the product, how to appreciate, in particular the chocolate. I will probably not, create, a fact that you will say, maybe in Western Europe we are more a sweet mouth than East, but it is the case. Chinese consumer, they rather prefer, salty products rather than sweet. So we have to educate this consumer the way, the product, and also to evaluate their preference. We always, as a brand, as I mentioned to you, try to be consistent. So it is important for us to not, create, when we are talking about the core business, when we are talking about the product, to create differences. We want to leverage and, what is called a global brand. And so when we have a launch such recently, we have revamped, our core truffle collection around the globe. It has been consistent as a launch in terms of message and in terms of product. The product is the same. But certainly, which is particularly the example when now we talk about the market, we have to adapt ourselves to how to be relevant to the consumer, as I mentioned to you. It has been the case for creating the connection to them and doing brand activation around that, but it's also relevant from their product and the way they consume. I mentioned to you Turkey and the Middle East and expanding to cafes, and it is the case for China, because in China they don't have Christmas, they don't have Saint Valentine. Probably the two main seasons for them is the Mid-Autumn Festival and Chinese New Year. And as a brand, we have also forced us to innovate and be innovative, to also adapt the product offer, to create special chocolate for those particular moment, as well as the gifting moment and the packaging related to that. That's the case on the photo just on the left side, because that's the Mid-Autumn Festival collection of last year. And so this has been extremely successful. Another example in Japan, and that's probably the beauty of Godiva as a global brand, because we have extremely important season in Western Europe and in North America for Christmas. But for Saint Valentine, believe me or not, where it is the most important time of the year in terms of sales and revenues, it's Saint Valentine and White Day. So we also have to adapt the brand to the relevant period in key markets. And you can see also, and that's where you see the connection when I mentioned to you that one of our elements of the brand positioning is to own the ultimate chocolate experience, and it's to thrill the sense not only during a particular time of the year, it's every day, every month. We have also developed relevant secondary product category that will also create the connection. And I can tell you that ice cream and chocolate has been extremely successful in our mature markets such as Japan and our expansion market in China. So, you know, for us, the way we see India and we feel extremely comfortable is based on the successful expansion we have had in markets around India. In China, as I mentioned to you, more than 40 stores in 3 years. It's already a success story. And we feel extremely comfortable as well that we have the capacity to adapt the brand and adapt the product offer to be relevant to the consumer. We can leverage a lot of our experience in different markets that we have already. Nevertheless, you know, the key challenge for us as a luxury brand is always to really understand, you know, how the consumer react and how they are acting as well with luxury brand. It's not because we sell luxury that we have to be not affordable, you know, to the middle class growing. And such a brand like us, we say in particular the chocolate, it's an affordable luxury. So we have to understand deeply, you know, how the consumer, as I said, react and act to such a category of chocolate, and how we have to adapt ourselves based on a very strong heritage of the brand, and also how we are proposing the consumer to experience the brand, and it's into retail. So we also have to understand this particular aspect is how best and how well we will be able to showcase, you know, the brand and the products.